Ugg here with Two Salt Travel, and today I want to show you how to tie the first down. So the first down is a great little baitfish imitation that's very heavy, so it gets to the bottom very quickly. I like to use this fly as my terminal tackle when I'm fishing baitfish imitations or leech patterns on still water for trout, so lakes, reservoirs, ponds. I'll put that as my point fly down there close to the bottom. And originally, this one's in gold, but originally I used to tie it in copper, and we use this quick descent material from Hairline. And if you can get it in copper, you can do a variety of different colors. You can do you can use the copper, the gold, or the silver body, and then you can change and vary up the tail and the collar. The collar is made of Senyo laser dub, and the tail is marabou. So you could do like a black tail with black Senyo, or you could do you know, another good one might be olive. Use like a dark olive brown tail, and maybe the brown Senyo dubbing would be a good combination. So you can just vary it up, and it's a fun little pattern to fish under a bobber on this jig head. You can also tie it up on a streamer hook and fish it in rivers as well. If you're fishing on still water, you want to have a little bit more action. So next, let's take a look on how to spin one of these up. Okay, so you're going to want to start off by putting a hook in the vise, and I am using these are the Voodoo jig head hooks from Voodoo Custom Tackle. And this is the 1/16 ounce in matte black. I really like these because they're very strong hooks. This one's a 2x strong, and so you don't worry about them breaking off. And to that, this is basically, it's like a size 8 hook. And to that, I'm going to cast on with my thread, and this is the uni thread in rusty brown, 6/0. And I'm just going to cast on right behind the ball jig there. And once I get that on a little bit, I can cut off the excess. And now I just want to build touching wraps all the way back to the bend of the hook. And when I get to about the bend of the hook, right about there, you know, I should be about, you know, an 1/8. I can go a little further. You know, an 1/8 of an inch or more behind the point of that hook. And to that, I'm going to add the tail. And for the tail, I'm using X Select Marabou in brown. But you don't. These feathers are pretty sweet. They're great plumy feathers. But you don't really need you know, a really nice feather like this. You can get away with like a woolly bugger type marabou feather. But I had these in brown, and so these are the ones that I'm going to use for this video. So anyhow, I don't need a lot of these fibers here at the base of the feather. So I'm just going to peel those back, get rid of those. And then I like to grab it here by the tip and kind of splay those fibers out vertical or perpendicular to the stem there. And then I can cut out the tip there. I'm just trying not to build up a real thick tail. In fact, it was a little bit too thick still, so I'm just going to peel off some of these fibers down near the base and then I'm going to run it in my fingers, and it should feel like it's about the diameter of the lead in a lead pencil. So if you can visualize that, that should be about the thickness. And then I want the overall length of this tail to be about a hook and a half-ish in length. So I'm going to grab that off right there, hold it on top of the shank of the hook, do one loose wrap to capture it, and then a few wraps just to crank it down. And once I've got it secured on there pretty good, I can go ahead and cut off my excess. And then I want to add some flash. And so for flash, I'm using the Uni Mylar. This is the number 12 in gold and silver. I'm going to just cut off a little bit of this. And you can see this side has a silver side, and then on the other side it has a gold side. I just want to make sure that the gold side is facing out. And so I'm going to put that on there. And I'll use a loose wrap just to capture it. And then once I can get my thread back there to the base of the tail, right there. And then I want that kind of running, just straight down the hook shank. And that's looking pretty good. And so I'll cut that excess off. And then I don't want a whole lot of flash. I just want something about half the length of the tail. And so now I'll tie this in on the other side. And really lash that down. Okay, now we're going to add some weight to this. And I'm using lead wire. This is the 0.20 diameter lead wire. And so I'm going to start at the base of the tail, and I'm going to start wrapping this lead forward towards the jig head. And then I'm just going to stop a little bit with a little gap there behind the jig head so that I can finish with some spots to put a little bit of material. And next you can go ahead and build up some wraps over the top of the lead there. And when you get to the front there, just build up a little ramp until you get back up onto the lead. And then just keep wrapping that and securing that lead wire down so you have a nice solid base to work with. Right there I'm kind of filling that in, making it about the same diameter from the tail so that it's got basically that same diameter body. And then once I get back here, this is a good time to, I like to take a little piece of straw here, and I've cut it kind of short so I can work with it. And then I've cut it down the middle so that I can splay this thing open, and I can go ahead and just capture that tail right there. So that's a nice way to kind of hold those marabou fibers without getting them all tangled up in my dubbing, because the next step is to add the dubbing material, and I'm going to do a dubbing loop. So I grab it with my pinky finger, and then I go back over the shank of the hook. So I create two pieces of thread, and then I can lash that down and advance it back close to the base of the tail. And for my dubbing material, I'm using the Quick Descent in gold. And so I'm just going to pull off some of these fibers. That's might be close to being enough right there. I'm going to stand my dubbing loop upright so I can start stacking this material in there. And then I just want to stack that dubbing right on top of one another until I build up a nice little brush. I didn't have enough, so I'm going to add some more here. That material in there. And just keep building this up and up and up, but stacking it on top of one another. And until I end up with a brush that's about 3 inches long. So it's about, I don't know if you can see that, but it's about 3 inches long. And then I can pinch it, give it a couple spins at the loop there, and that'll hold it while I get my tool. And so I've just got my spinning tool, and it's got the two little shepherd ends there. I'm going to grab the loop of my thread there with the tool, and then I can start spinning this thing. And I just want to spin it until it, you know, kind of forms a nice little dubbing noodle. And I don't want to go too tight with this material, because I tell you what, you will break it off pretty quickly if you spin it too much. And so I'm going to go ahead and grab it with my hackle pliers right there, and then I can cut it free. And then I like to grab it, you know, by the base, by the thread there, and then I'm going to brush this material out away from the core and upright. If you get some spots where it looks like it's kind of dense in there, you can just kind of prick it out, you know. You don't have to go too crazy though. There's a spot right there that I want to even out just a little bit. Okay, and so once you got it kind of splayed out of there, now you can start spinning it. Let me get my thread out of the way, advance that up to over the lead wrap, and then I can start palmering this around the hook. So when you make a turn, just go ahead and grab some of that material and scoot it backwards. And just keep palmering that material, advancing it forward. And you want to just cover all of this lead wrap. It doesn't have to be, you know, super tight on there. You just want to build up a nice, you know, nice little body. And when I get to my little ramp there, I want to leave some room for some material here, so I'm just going to pinch it with my finger, capture it with a loose turn, and then I can crank it down with a couple tight ones, and then do a couple behind it as well, and then I can cut off my excess right there. And then I'm going to take my dubbing brush, and very carefully, I don't want to pull up the tail fibers, but I just want to stand this material up and then give it a little bit of a haircut. So basically this is your hook gape right here. So I want to go a little bit more than the hook gape, so you know, about something like that, and then go around this and just continue to cut that, give this fly a haircut, you know, about that same length, you know, like so. And then try and pull those fibers rearward by combing that out with your brush. and it makes for a nice little heavy body. That's really pretty neat. So something like so. Next I'm going to add the collar, and that material is going to be Sanyo laser dub in the Sculpin olive. And so again, I just want to do a dubbing loop. So I'll go around, grab it with my pinky finger, go around the hook shank, and then back around the threads a couple times, and then lash it down. And here I can just grab a nice little clump of this material off of there, and I'm going to start feeding it in between those two strands of thread. And I don't have to go too crazy. I like a pretty good solid collar here, but you know, I don't have to have as much material as I did with the dubbing of the body. So basically I have about 2.5 inches there. I'll pinch it off, spin it a couple times, grab it with the tool, and then I can spin that up real nice. This you can spin it a little tighter than you can with the quick descent dub, but something about like this, brush those fibers out. You just want them coming out pretty perpendicular to the core there. You don't want it too bulky because it'll fill that in pretty quickly. And I like to get a lot more of those fibers standing out than I did with the quick descent dubbing. So if you see some spots where it's just kind of built up in there, just go ahead and try and prick it out of there, and brush it out a few times. And you can grab it again with your hackle pliers, cut it free from the tool. Oopsies. Don't let go of it. And then you're going to spin that thing around, and when you do, just give that a nice little palmered collar. Just kind of pull those fibers rearward, and you don't want to crowd the ball jig too much. So once you feel like you're getting up there pretty close to it, go ahead and grab it with one loose turn to capture it, and then crank it down with a couple more, and then do a few behind it. And then you can cut loose your dubbing brush close in there, and do a couple more turns behind there. And then I like to brush that out. So just try and stand those fibers up as best you can. I just don't like it when it looks like it's kind of spinning around the hook. I want it to look more like it's standing upright so that I can comb it back at the end. Okay, and again, you want to give this guy a little haircut, about the same length as before. Just the hook gape, a little more than the hook gape. Kind of clean up some of those really wild fibers. Again, I'm kind of standing away. And then take your brush and just comb all that rearward. And then once you got that cone back, now you can do a little whip finish. You know, 6, 7, 8 turns behind there. I like to kind of push those thread wraps down upon themselves and just kind of cinch that up a little bit and do another one, just because you want a very durable fly, and so I'm going to crank that down, but be careful you don't crank it so hard you break your thread, because then it will come undone. And a couple of dabs of super glue in there. I use this Gorilla Glue. Getting kind of low on it. And then just paint those thread wraps as best as you can with that super glue. Get a little more in there. Just paint those up as best as you can. Really try and lock that thread in there real nice. And then if you want to, you kind of clean up the head so that you don't get that super glue crystallizing all over that nice matte finish of the jig head, of the ball jig. There you go. So that is the first down. It's a really great, quick sinking baitfish imitation that you can use on lakes and reservoirs below a bobber. If you like this video, please hit subscribe on my channel. That way you'll get updates on when I upload fly tying videos or instructional videos on fly fishing. Thank you very much.